Hi everyone, and welcome to the Horror Reel Roundup for January 2026. In January this year, I have 7 films to discuss with you, but before we begin, I have just a few disclaimers. Firstly, each film will be discussed in release order, and apologies if your favorite film that you saw this month doesn't get much time with me today, or if I didn't even see one of your favorite movies that you saw this month. Also, any controversy surrounding any film will not be discussed. At the end of the video, all of the films will be ranked via an A through F grading scale, S tier being the highest and D- being the lowest. And while I am ranking these films, none of these movies are to be ranked due to their technical abilities or how good they are, just pretty much just by my enjoyment. And also, rankings/numerical scores are kind of silly anyway, but this is all just in good fun. And by the end of the video, we will have updated the yearly tier list with January's releases. Also, these are my opinions, and while they are subject to change, as of today, this upload date, these are and were my opinions at this time. And finally, timestamps will be in the description if you'd like to hear about a specific movie. Comment below your thoughts as we go, whether they be positive or negative. I'd love to read your thoughts and have a discussion with you. Now, with all of that out of the way, here is your official spoiler warning. Major plot points and the movies as a whole will be discussed throughout this video, and you have been warned. Now, let's begin January's Horror Reel Roundup with We Bury the Dead. So, We Bury the Dead was a fairly alright start to the year. We had a different kind of take on zombies, and while there was a much, much better zombie film that came out just a couple weeks after this, I still found it very interesting, although it was kind of forgettable in the end. It had a really solid take on zombies, and they felt more like ghosts in a sense that their whole idea was that the only reason they're still there is because some of their soul is still left, like ghosts are. And even there's one shot in the film where we're in a garage with a couple characters, and in the garage are just standing these like very static zombies. They're sitting there just kind of waiting and almost not really doing much, but instead of like, your typical zombies, they want your brains, blah, blah, blah. These zombies just need to do their one final task so that their souls can be let free, essentially. Kind of like how ghosts have been portrayed in the past, and I really liked that idea a lot. Unfortunately, it's not really fleshed out as much as I would have preferred it to be. I feel like if we would have focused a majority of the film on that instead of some of the other subplots that get a little more fleshed out, I probably would have enjoyed it just a tad bit more. I mean, like I said, the zombie, just this concept of what these zombies are really interesting, and they're almost used as like a surrogate for our main character's emotions throughout the film. I love that aspect of it a lot. It's just a majority of the middle portions and some of the ending and the setup is kind of hit or miss for me. And another thing, this movie is only 94 minutes long, but I still feel like it could have been a tad bit shorter, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Just cut out some of that middleman. I feel like I would have liked it a little more if the pacing was a little more on point. But regardless, still enjoyable. I would still recommend people to see this just to even see the take on zombies. And also some of these characters are really intriguing. I liked a majority of them, or I guess of the ones we see. There's not too many. Our main protagonist, she's strong and she's independent, and I liked watching her, as well as her companion throughout the film. But yeah, I guess, it was fairly alright. I don't think it was great. I wouldn't say it was bad. It was very much fairly average. Very much a January release, absolutely. Next movie up is Primate, and it was very much your standard formulaic, what am I trying to say? It did the slasher formula fairly well. I think Ben is a fucking terrifying antagonist slasher villain. I just think the idea of something, whether it be a human or an animal, just being incredibly unpredictable and easily provoked is absolutely scary as shit, man. And Ben is genuinely terrifying. Anytime he's on screen, post the rabies, of course, he's just not fun. It's a very dark and cold movie, and it's a very quiet one, as one of our characters is deaf, and it adds to it. And there's some really cool filmmaking done with sound design and how characters, specifically Ben, interact with him, and it's really sweet. One thing that bogs this movie down is it is a slasher movie, but man, these characters are so fucking dumb. It's like borderline wrong. These characters are so unlikable to a point where I don't care that they die, and I know that's the point. slashers do that. I just, sometimes there's those characters that you latch onto, and these ones I just couldn't really do that. There's not really much room to do that either. They're killed off fairly quickly, which honestly, if like I'm kind of being hypocritical right now with what I just said, but I'm okay with that. They're dumb as a fucking box of rocks. They're all so silly, and not in like a funny way, but just like, why would you do that kind of way? But it's fun. It's one of your prototypical slashers. Scores, I love the score. It was incredible. There's a lot of scenes with Ben. I keep wanting to call him Gordy, and I keep not doing that. But Ben is a really great slasher villain. I don't like the way he went out, like in story, not how it happened, like, but saddened me to see him pass away at the very end. But my fucking God, he is one of the most gnarly villains ever. And he's just scary as shit. I'm just going to keep talking about how scary he is. There's one specific scene where he's peeking through. It actually reminds me of Nope a little bit as well. And I think he might be slightly inspired, but I'm not sure. I almost called him Gordy. Ben is like peeking through curtains at this fucking frat guy. And you'd think he'd be safe because, there's no eye contact. You can't see him. But the shot just kind of lingers on him. And he slowly gets closer. He peels it away. And then he fucking grabs his jaw, rips it open. And oh my God, it's so gnarly. This movie's really fucking gory. And it's all practical. And I love it. Even Ben is practical. I love that a lot. If there was one thing that I would have wanted in this movie, is just Ben fucking getting on top of someone's chest and just beating it in. He does it earlier. He does it later in the film and how he's beating on somebody. But then he kind of stops and like bites and like tears and stuff. No, I wanted him to just fucking straight up, kind of like the scene in Terrifier 2 when Art takes that fucking mace or whatever the fuck it is and he slams it through that girl's chest. I wanted Ben to do something similar to that, but just continuously. I think that would have been pretty cool. But it didn't happen, and I'm not upset that it didn't happen. I just think it would have been pretty cool. But regardless, Primate is very much a prototypical slasher. Only reason it's bogged down is just by some really, really forgettable characters. And I know slashers do that, but like these ones are like almost OD. But no, just overall, just an extremely fun time. It's a slasher movie. They're really hard to hate on, in my opinion, or at least for me specifically. But yeah, I enjoyed myself very much. Next, we have what might just be the best movie, the greatest movie that released this year. It might be the greatest middle movie in a trilogy ever. And that list includes Two Towers. With 28 years later, Bone Temple. This film expands on the 28 franchise in the best ways possible. Everything about this film is just straight up incredible. Nia DaCosta is doing a phenomenal director job. Her direction is incredible. I think the one negative before I get into the immense amount of positives is that I think the cinematography in 28 years later was better than Bone Temple. But my God, Bone Temple is still gorgeous. It's still beautiful. The performances all around, from Ray Fiennes to Alfie Williams to all of the Fingers to Samson, all of them play their role and they do it so well. Every single character feels alive. Every character feels fleshed out. Every character has a personality of their own, even including the Jimmies, and you wouldn't think so, but they do. And they're all just so compelling to watch and to see their stories unravel and how they interact with each other. And I guess flowing into that, I have a couple of my favorite like relationship dynamics in this film with just Jemima and Jimmy, Jimmy Crystal, with Jemima and Jimmy Crystal and how they work, but then also how Jimmy interacts with Kelson later. And they kind of have this almost father-son moment when when they're just talking to each other. Might be the best 8 minutes of movie I've ever seen. But then we get this relationship story between Samson and Dr. Kelson, and we get a bunch more just story there and the way they interact with each other. While Samson is kind of not doing most of the work there, Kelson gives him life, literally and figuratively, in just the way that I guess Kelson talks to him and shelters him and borderline like loves him is just so endearing and compelling to watch, especially in a place like where this movie is set up at. and where it's just a desolate wasteland of nothing. But then we also get just the Jimmies themselves and their interactions with Spike, but then also their interactions with Sir Jimmy Crystal. And Sir Jimmy Crystal has such a grasp on them that they have no idea what life actually is. And it is so interesting to watch. And I'm so curious about what Jimmy Ink's story is going to look like later in part 3, just because she doesn't know how to really interact with people. She's definitely got some form of psychotic like stuff going on up there, and that's just because she's been groomed by Jimmy Crystal for so long to think this way. And I'm so curious as to what that story is going to look like. Spike's character development definitely takes a back burner in this movie, but I don't mind it at all because we get just enough of him and it lets everything else breathe. And we get more Ray Fiennes, we get more Jimmys, we get more Samson, and I loved that so much. Even to the point where we get Jim returning at the very end, which was incredible. It got a pop out of me in the theater. I was just in the theater today, and right when that moment happened, I heard someone going, what the fuck, no way. And I was I couldn't help but smile because that's so like awesome that it could get a reaction like that out of somebody. Also, the score and the soundtrack is incredible. That fucking Radiohead needle drop was incredible. All of the music in this franchise is so incredible. Like, the score is insane. I love it so much. I feel like I can't talk about this movie without talking about the fucking giant concert towards the end. And Ray Fiennes is playing this old Nick character for a couple of minutes, and it's so compelling and so intriguing, and I love it so much. And like, there's just not much to dislike about this movie. I think the thing I only dislike about it is that people stopped coming to see it after the first week or so. I'm still hopeful for part 3. I think part 3, if it nails it, it might, this 28 Years trilogy might go down as one of the best ever. And I'm so excited. My expectations are through the roof. But yeah, this movie is incredible. I love it so much. It, like I said, it might just be the greatest movie of the year already, and we're 2 weeks into fucking January here. Oh, also, one last thing. I need Ray Fiennes to play Pinhead at some point in the very, very near future. I love the Hellraiser franchise. Ray Fiennes and that small little section at the very end looked and felt like Pinhead to me. And I think he can do a fucking great job, and I would love it so much. But regardless of everything else, this movie is fantastic. I recommend everyone to go see this movie. Of course, you got to watch Days, Weeks, and 28 Years before this, just to get you some context. But if you just want to watch a great movie, watch this one. It will not disappoint. Next, a disappointment for me personally, I have Night Patrol. Night Patrol, I got my hopes up almost probably too much. Like I was just talking about expectations. I saw Justin Long was in a new movie, and I was like, this sounds awesome. I was like, oh shit, fucking CM Punk is in this. This is great. And then I saw the poster, and I'm like, holy shit, this movie's gonna fucking bang. Justin Long and CM Punk are the only reason I stayed in the theater to finish this movie. While there are some really interesting ideas and concepts going on, I just did not care after like the first 20 minutes of the movie. I'm sorry, 20% of the movie. Like, the beginning of it just feels like almost like Training Day, as Justin Long is being inducted into this new, like, I don't remember exactly what they're called. I think Night Patrol. Justin Long is getting inducted into Night Patrol, and it feels like Training Day, and where this like good person is being inducted into this bad group of people. And if the movie continued that and fleshed out those characters even more, oh my god, this would have been great. But after like the first 30 minutes or so, nix that shit. We're getting into some fucking basically Sinners plot, but just way, way, way worse. All the vampire stuff is just so silly to me, and not silly in a funny way, just silly in like a why way, kind of like Primate earlier. I don't know. It just feels like it was trying to capitalize on what Sinners was, but it does it in a way that's just not very good. Like I said, CM Punk is incredible in this movie. I want him in more stuff. I think he's a phenomenal actor. He's an incredible mic worker in the WWE, and he plays a really, really great villain in this movie. But then also Justin Long is doing an incredible job because he's Justin fucking Long. But everyone else is just not really there for me. They don't really feel as invested as everyone else, aside from maybe the mom. She's doing a pretty decent job. I don't know. It's just a very, very slow, crooked cop story that turns into this batshit vampire thriller that's just not enthralling or captivating at all. And you would think with a plot like that, it sounds incredible. But this one just didn't really do it for me. But do I recommend you to watch it? Absolutely. There's only probably 2 movies in the world that I would never recommend to anybody. But this one, you can have so much fun with this. Absolutely. It would just certainly was not for me. Next movie I watched this January was Return to Silent Hill. And I would like to preface this small section with, I haven't played any of the Silent Hill games. And so this is just a reflection on what this movie is in of itself. With that being said, I felt a little lost while watching because I don't really understand or can even conceptualize exactly what Silent Hill is, the place, I mean. From what I can gather and what I've assumed it to be until this point is it is just a place that is supposed to resemble specific things in James's mind. And all the characters he interacts with in Silent Hill are just people or emotions that he's dealing with, like, in reality. And based on that and what I have gathered, I think that this film is a lot better than, I guess, a majority of the audience. Now, is it a great movie? No. Is it a bad movie, though? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And one of the main reasons is that this film is fucking gorgeous. There is so many cool visuals and just beautiful shots that, and while watching, I'm just like, wow, this is a lot better than I had anticipated because I had seen so much hatred for this film online. For me, I felt that the pacing was on point. It feels incredibly segmented, like a video game. And so you don't really like stay in one spot for too long. And you're continuously getting to the next point, to the next point, to the next point, and nothing overstays its welcome, and you're constantly doing something, and it's great. Like I said, once again, the visuals are incredible, but then I also really loved the character designs and of everything, like even down to the fucking creepy little scarabs and beetles that were in it. Everything in this movie is genuinely terrifying. If I was to run into it, I wouldn't know what to do. And I just overall enjoyed myself. There's one specific visual that I just couldn't stop thinking about after. It's when this bed monster flies into the air and James is looking at it and it's a fucking like moth and it looks incredible. Like genuinely, like in the theater, I'm like, because it's just, oh my lord, it was beautiful. But I think because I hadn't played the game, I couldn't really connect with what was going on, probably more than someone that had. And that's my fault because I haven't played it. And so while it is my fault for not really being able to connect with these characters, I could absolutely understand why someone could, because just this concept alone is incredible to me. Like the idea of Silent Hill. And one last thing, just to bring it up one more time, this felt like a Hellraiser sequel. If you throw in Pinhead in here and some Cenobites, you've got like probably like the second or third best Hellraiser sequel. And I fucking love that franchise, so I don't take that lightly. That's what it felt like. You get a bunch of different segments of places that aren't really real. You throw in some Cenobites in there along with those fucking crazy ass creepy monsters, dude. You're golden. But overall, Return to Silent Hill, I think it's certainly not better than the original Silent Hill movie, but it's definitely better than that first sequel. And like I said earlier, not great, but it's absolutely not a bad film, and I would absolutely recommend you to watch it. Next, we have an incredibly fun movie in Send Help. Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien bounce off of each other like fucking crazy. They have an insane chemistry together, and I loved watching them just interact and act with each other. Dylan O'Brien is really, really fun to hate in this movie. Rachel McAdams is really, really fun to root for. And man, they just really, really work together. Like, really, really work well together. And Sam Raimi is just being Sam Raimi all over the place, doing his fucking thing. I love him. This is a very gorgeous film. Of course, there's lots and lots of just beautiful imagery, and I love the setting on the water, on this island, on the beach. It's also just really, really gross. And not only just in ways like, you know, blood splatter, blah, 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 but there's lots of snot. There's eating that's really gross. There's close-ups on things that are really gross. I think specifically that shot of Dylan O'Brien just focusing on the little bit of sandwich that's on Rachel McAdams' face, that made me feel weird. It made me feel really uncomfortable that's just something that he was focusing on, and that like there's a scene with vomit, there's lots and lots of eating stuff. I can't do the mouth stuff, and it happens a lot. Even there's a segment with a pig or whatever the fuck it is. And I love all of the twists and turns that this movie throws at you. I love how often Dylan O'Brien is just being shitty, but then he's being good because he's trying to get back on Rachel's good side. But then he just turns out to be shitty again and again and again. It's so great. Sometimes things like that can sound and get repetitive, but in this instance, it works so well. But I think it's probably due to the fact that it's Dylan O'Brien and he is incredible and he doesn't make it feel stale. But then also that's just a testament to the writing and to the directing as well. The only thing that I have really negative to say about it is that some of the CGI can look a little off, but I don't care. This movie's fun as fuck. Like, go see it. It's absolutely worth it. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. And finally, our final film for January I have is Iron Lung. Once again, this is another video game adaptation this month that I had not played the original source material for. And I'm going to preface this by saying I usually don't like video game adaptations. But this month had two that I really enjoyed, specifically Iron Lung more. This film is incredible. It's borderline unfathomable cosmic horror, and that specific subgenre is so hard to conceptualize into a visual medium. But dude, Markiplier does an incredible job of portraying it on the screen. He does everything, and he's doing it extremely well. The idea and the concept of this movie is really hard for me to comprehend and understand, but I think that adds to just the movie as a whole. This is a really, really great just psychological thriller in and of itself as well, along with the cosmic horror of it all. And because it's so hard for me to comprehend, I think that it adds to just the mystique and the idea of this movie so much. And it's just another reason to kind of make sense of it all. It's really hard to comprehend, and sometimes it just wears you out, and that is such good psychological writing and psychological just horror in general, not really being able to understand or comprehend what's going on but still feel something. And this movie does that so well. This movie is incredibly just metal as fuck. I'm thinking specifically just the idea of a sea of blood and being stuck in it, and there's blood everywhere. The monster or whatever the fuck is down there can like use its I don't know, and it's so cool. It's hard for me to even talk about because I don't even really understand what's going on, and I love that. I love that a lot. I feel like Markiplier is doing a really good job of acting. I think he does have some limitations to his emotional range, but I don't really care that much because of how well of a job he's doing in other aspects and how well of a job he's doing just acting in general. I think he does a lot of like talking through his teeth, like kind of like this, and I'm angry, like kind of like that, but it's not often enough to get like annoying or unbearable. And so I think, although of course he has some limitations, he's still doing a phenomenal job. The only thing I have really to say that's fairly negative is that it's 2 hours and 7 minutes long, and it feels like it can kind of drag a little bit. But I think the only reason I feel that way is because a lot of the in-between stuff alludes to gameplay. And so a lot of the minute tasks that he's doing is something that you would have done in the game. And so if I would have played it and had the knowledge of that and the context of that, I probably wouldn't have felt the runtime as much. I think it's an incredible and inspirational directorial debut for Markiplier. Yeah, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but man, this movie just fucking wears you out. There's so much. Is it actually happening? Is it not happening? What's going on? That it's like constantly spiraling your mind, and it's really well done. I think that they nailed this on the head. I think that I really need to play Iron Lung just to get more of an idea of what I watched and what exactly it is. I think the monster design, if that's even what it is incredible. I think everything to do with the lore and the story that I know of in the movie sounds incredible, and I honestly just want to learn more. Yeah, I fucking love this movie. I'm so glad it was made, and I hope that Markiplier continues to make movies because he did a phenomenal, incredible, fantastical job with Iron Lung. Now, with all the discussions out of the way, we're going to go ahead and rank these films. We're going to be starting in the D tier for the ranking, and the only film I have there is Night Patrol. Next film I have is Return to Silent Hill in the C tier. Following that is We Bury the Dead at a C+. Next film I have is Primate as a B- for the year. Following that is Send Help with an A-, and also Iron Lung with an A-. And finally, with an S tier, I have 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. And with that, we conclude our 2026 January Horror Reel Roundup. I'd love to discuss more with you, so drop a comment if you had anything else to add to this conversation. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to me talk about the horror films for this month. Enjoy me next month for February's Horror Reel Roundup, where I discuss all of the horror films that released in February of 2026. I also have a short film releasing sometime early this year, but I'll keep you posted. Until then, this has been Justin King's 2026 January Horror Reel Roundup.